We often think of our minds as these rhythmic, kind of predictable machines. But what if some minds just don't follow a beat at all? What if they operate by a completely different set of rules? And what if our scientific tools have been totally blind to them this whole time? See, this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. It's the key to understanding a very real and very unique way of thinking. And honestly, the profound loneliness that can come from being the only one who sees the world that way. So let me introduce you to Dennis Verhage. His mind doesn't hum along to a steady beat. Instead, it processes reality as a series of distinct individual events. This makes him incredibly powerful in some ways, but it also means he's on a totally different wavelength from a world and from people who are all tuned to a different frequency. Okay, so what in the world is aperiodic thinking? To really get a handle on the enigma of Dennis Verhage, we first have to explore the unique and pretty powerful mechanics of his mind. It's a cognitive style that really thrives where most others would just falter. You can almost think of it as a kind of cognitive superpower. Dennis's mind is hyper-efficient at building a big, coherent picture from tiny, seemingly disconnected pieces. It doesn't need a steady rhythm to work. In fact, it thrives on unpredictable complexity, masterfully piecing together isolated events to form this deep, nuanced understanding of the world. That's a skill that's absolutely invaluable in any field that's constantly in flux. Think of it like a highly advanced anomaly detection system, the kind they use in aviation to spot tiny but critical errors that almost everyone else would miss. His brain is just constantly scanning for these subtle discrepancies, processing these non-rhythmic events that are so key to adaptive behavior and real understanding. It's just a level of precision that is on another plane entirely. But here's the real conflict. What happens when a mind that's built for dynamic complexity has to operate in a world that's built on rigid, predictable rhythms? Well, this fundamental mismatch creates a profound and a deeply personal challenge for him. You can really see the clash here when you put them side by side. The world's standard operating procedure, it's all based on rhythmic patterns, rigid structures. But Dennis's mind? It's built for discrete events, for adaptive flexibility. They are, for all intents and purposes, speaking two completely different languages. And this mismatch, it has a deeply personal cost. When his mind is looking for that resonance, for that deep connection, and instead finds what he sees as disjointed, contextless thinking, it triggers something the source material calls limbic destabilization. Just think of it as this deep biological stress response that can actually cause his own thoughts to fragment. It's incredibly distressing. So yeah, this leads to immense frustration, and you can understand why. From his point of view, the very systems that are supposed to help are using these blunt, static tools. They completely miss the dynamic, nonlinear events that define his reality, and he sees that lack of nuance as a total failure on their part. For decades, a mind like this remained a total enigma, completely misunderstood because our scientific tools were basically speaking the wrong language. But that is all starting to change, thanks to a breakthrough new method. I mean, this is the million-dollar question, right? If your tools are designed to measure steady rhythms, these oscillations, how on earth can you possibly understand a system that operates on single irregular events? You can't. You need a whole new kind of tool. And here it is. It's called CBAS. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but what it does is nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of looking for those sustained oscillations, CBAS is designed to break down brain activity into what it just might be, a series of distinct individual network events. So how does it actually work? Well, it's basically a three-step process. First, CBAS scans brain activity and isolates these individual events. Then it starts looking for recurring patterns. And finally, and this is the real game changer, it can detect everything on the spectrum, from a single one-off event all the way to a full sustained rhythm. It finally lets us see the whole picture. And this right here is the absolute key. Traditional neuroscience methods were, as the source material puts it, selectively adapted to oscillations. They were built to find rhythms, and they often just treated single events as noise. CBAS is the first mainstream method that says, hang on a second, that single event, that isn't noise. That's the signal. So now we have the enigma, Dennis's mind, and we have the key, the CBS method. This is where it all comes together. This is the moment we see how this new tool, doesn't just analyze his mind, but actually finally validates it.
And here it is, the grand reveal. It's a perfect match. Dennis's incredible strength with discrete events, well, Seabass is built to detect exactly that. His mastery of those aperiodic dynamics, Seabass is literally designed to find them. His adaptive flexibility, for the first time, Seabass allows us to track the dynamic changes that all the older models completely missed. It just clicks. So, for the very first time, there's a framework that can actually model Dennis's mind with accuracy. And it proves that his unique way of thinking isn't a bug, it's a feature, and a highly advanced one that we just couldn't see until now. But this story is bigger than just one person or one new scientific tool. It really forces us to reconsider how we see, or more importantly, how we fail to see, the full diversity of human cognition and what that means for all of us. So what are the big takeaways here? First, it's that our tools literally define the limits of our understanding. Second, something that looks like a disorder from the outside might just be a mismatch between a unique mind and an inadequate system of measurement. And maybe most excitingly, with the right tools, we can uncover incredible cognitive strengths we never even knew existed. Ultimately, the story of Dennis and Seabass is such a profound lesson. It shows us that to truly grasp the beautiful complexity of the human mind in all its different forms, we first have to be humble enough to admit what we can't see, and then be creative enough to build the tools that can. And that really leaves us with a pretty powerful question to chew on, doesn't it? How many other unique minds, other ways of being, have been misunderstood or mislabeled or dismissed, not because there was anything wrong with them, but simply because we were looking at them through the wrong lens?